There's something we all share, something that inspires us, drives us, and challenges us. It's what gets us out of bed, ready to face each day and find new ways to improve our urban world and our customers' lives. It's the opportunity to reimagine and redefine our cities and leave a powerful legacy. There's a shift happening. Boundaries are blurring. Work is no longer what we do between 9 and 5. Leisure is no longer confined to the weekends, and family time isn't neatly tucked away into the early evening and holidays. Digital interactions and physical connections are converging. Everything's intertwined. People everywhere are looking for ways to live a seamlessly connected life. We want to live in more connected environments. We want to lead fluid lives where we can easily shift between working, caring, resting, shopping, volunteering, learning, and raising our families. We want to experience fuller, more rewarding lives, lived in our own way. For this to happen, the urban environment has to change. And this is why we're here. Reimagining and redefining our cities is what we do. It's our reason for being. We're a world leader in the creation and management of unique urban places. We're at the forefront of reimagining the way Australian city dwellers live, work, and shop. We're redefining the landscape and creating more sustainable, more connected, more fluid, more vibrant, and more striking urban environments. We're shaping the future, a future where families can spend more time together, where they can live and grow in nurturing surroundings. We're improving lifestyles for people by creating seamless environments where they can meet for work and for recreation. We're creating workplaces where collaboration and contribution are more important than office-bound presence. We're having a positive impact on our cities and our customers with our ambitious This Changes Everything sustainability agenda. We're creating award-winning places that people love, and all of us at Mirvac have the opportunity to contribute to the powerful legacy that we will leave behind. It's easy to see why we're an employer of choice when it comes to joining a passionate group of people who are creating and managing leading-edge urban environments. At Mirvac, we have a purpose, and that purpose is to reimagine urban life. Reimagining harnesses the power of our imagination, of our dreams, to do things differently, perhaps even in a startling way. It means to question, to think again, to not settle for the tried and true or the mundane. We're not just creating assets or building buildings, we're providing new ways for people to live their lives in our cities. And we know that the only way we will bring this purpose to life is to harness the power of all of us.
Hello once again and welcome to this week's auction update. Geoff White from CoreLogic will join me in just a moment. We might just have a sober warning for the market back in just a moment.
The real estate business is tough, and rising costs are making it harder to thrive. Did you know you can save up to 70% on your staff costs by outsourcing the low-value, repeatable tasks so your team can focus on growing your business? Beepo is an outsourcing provider focused on the real estate industry. With an English-speaking, tertiary qualified and fully trained team in the Philippines, Beepo will give your business the boost it needs to start growing and returning value to you. We can look after all of your low-value, repetitive administration work from our fully secure office. We provide comprehensive real estate-focused training and accreditation. The Beepo team is supervised by on-site management with finance industry standard security features. For more information, visit beepo.com.au.
And joining me once again as my co-host, the man who has all the figures, Geoff White from CoreLogic. G'day, Geoff. How you doing?
Yeah, g'day, Kevin. How you going?
Good, mate. We saw a bit of I guess a sign that maybe sellers are getting a bit reluctant about putting their properties on the market, Geoff.
Yeah, that's possible, Kevin. I think certainly from what the agents are saying, their listings are down on what they have been. And that's probably because those that are contemplating selling aren't necessarily, doing it just for the sake of it or testing the market, given what the sort of market we're in. But having said that, this week we had only 100 less than last week in terms of auctions nationally. So it did go okay this week, yeah.
Okay, so what are our preliminary clearance results looking like, Geoff?
Yeah, we've got a weighted average, Kevin, of 55% nationally. So that, in comparison to the preliminary last week, was 54.1%. So we're up a little bit on last week. Excuse me. Sydney finished at 61.3%. Preliminary from 799 auctions. So really that's showing some strength in that Sydney market, back a little bit from what it was obviously a year or two ago, but still showing some good signs. And Melbourne 54.9% from 1,046, so it topped 1,000 in the end, but 54.9%. So those preliminaries with Sydney and Melbourne, Sydney 61.3, is actually up on the preliminary last week, which was 58.6. So it's a few percent higher than the preliminary last week. Melbourne was also up about 1%. So they're doing okay, we believe, at this rate. And certainly the other other cities, Brisbane 32.9 from 124 auctions, Adelaide 47.9 from 94, Perth 33.3 from 15 auctions, so not many auctions in Perth. And Canberra was the interesting one for me, Kevin, 44.2, which is down on what it usually is, and they had 121 auctions. So a total of 2,204 auctions conducted.
Excellent. All right, well, we'll have a look at the house and unit breakdowns. Geoff, we might just here focus on Sydney and Melbourne as the two indicators. Yep. An interesting story there, isn't there?
Yeah, it is, Kevin. And when you look at these numbers and looking at Sydney first, you'll find that the houses have a higher clearance rate than the units. So in Sydney, 62.7 versus units 58.9. So the house market, in terms of those being offered this week, was stronger than the units. In comparison to Melbourne, which is almost the opposite, the units were higher at 58.6. The houses 53.2. So a different, almost just a flip from Sydney to Melbourne. So that's an interesting observation. Overall, the units were actually higher than the houses. Units 57.5 nationally, and houses 53.7. So that gave us the 55% weighted average. So yeah, when you focus on Sydney and Melbourne, they're different markets certainly, and this week showed that.
Okay, we'll take you to Sydney now, the sub-regions. North Sydney, Hornsby, eastern suburbs with the most number of auctions, and a reasonable sort of a result out of North Sydney and Hornsby as well, Geoff.
Yes, some good results there. There's quite a few 60s amongst the sub-regions, and one of the ones to focus on is certainly the city and inner south at 70.7 and Parramatta 72.7. So there was a couple of the sub-regions above 70%. We've got a few in the 60s there, including the inner southwest, inner west, North Sydney, Hornsby, which has been performing pretty well in recent weeks. They had 62.2, and the Northern Beach is 63.2. So Sutherland 65 from 30 auctions. But the one eastern suburbs, 176 auctions conducted with a clearance rate of 54.9. So that was a good result for the eastern suburbs as well, Kevin. Yeah.
It was indeed. And while we're in Sydney, let's have a look at the top sale, which in fact was the top sale in the country, 8 Brayside Street in Wahroonga. 5,020,000. Chadwick Real Estate selling this one. Nice home, Geoff.
Yeah, this is a classic, a very, very nice home. The parcel of land was obviously a major attraction here, 1,960 square metres, 5 bedrooms, 4 bathrooms, and some garage accommodation as well. A solid brick. The house or the building itself was 409 square metres of internal living, so a good sized property, but a terrific location, and offered everything that you would really want. And hence the result, and plenty of potential to do something else given the size of the allotment. And well done to the guys at Chadwick, Lynette and William at Chadwick. Good result.
Yeah, a great result. And just looking at the photos of this property too, Geoff, it's an unusual design, but very it looks like a really solid property.
Yeah. Yeah, it does. It's got that feeling even by the photos, doesn't it?
That's right.
They mentioned solid brick and it looks solid. But the one that really grabbed me was the image of out the back there with opening onto the back area there, sitting out there with all of those opened up. What a fantastic greenery and a wonderful outlook at the back there too.
You can see yourself there, Geoff, can't you? And
I could actually, yes. And given the weather we're having at the moment, a nice cold beer in one of those chairs would be quite good, Kevin.
Exactly, mate. It just shows what you can do with all that land too, almost 2,000 square metres, as you said. It's a great property. And once again, congratulations to Lynette and William. Okay, we'll take you to Melbourne, the sub-regional results there. Yeah, once again, I think, as you like to say, Geoff, run a ring around 50s and 60s. They're there.
Yeah, that's right. Save and accept the West at 48.8, which is still not bad from 115 auctions. The rest are all above 50, and we've got a couple breaking into the 60s. So, again, in comparison to Sydney, Sydney's had more of a range between the sub-regions and their clearance rates. Melbourne's probably got a little bit more consistency there. We haven't got anything in Melbourne showing it above 70, so the highest being 61.3 in the inner east, actually, and then the southeast at 61.1, and then we've got quite a few in the 50s. But the inner part of Melbourne, 55.9 with 265 auctions, so a lot of auctions there, and a pretty handsome clearance rate there of 55.9. So that shows some strength certainly in that market there, Kevin.
It does. Top sale out of Melbourne was 5 Gordon Grove at South Yarra. Justin Long and Fiona Council from Marshall White selling this one. Price on this one was withheld, but I would imagine probably somewhere in the late 3 millions to early 4 millions would be around about where it is. Geoff, 613 square metres, 4 bedroom, 3 bathroom, 2 car. Once again, a great property.
Yeah,
well.
It does. And credit to the guys at Marshall White and Justin Fiona. Well presented, as they always do at Marshall White. And this home, as you scroll through the photos, it's just, well, there's not really anything that you'd need to do to it. It's got a very modern kitchen and all the facilities there. And again, it's 4 bedrooms, 3 bathrooms, so a good size home, solid brick, and in a 1920s era, which is very popular. And that part of South Yarra is close to everything, botanical gardens and Toorak Road and all of the facilities around that area. So a particularly good result for the guys at Marshall White and their client in Gordon Grove.
Indeed. Okay, top sale out of Brisbane. Glenys Austin sold this one from Ray White Paddington, just a touch under $2 million, $1,906,000 in Wilston. This one is a fairly big home on a good-sized block of land, 810 square metres in Wilston. Very hard to come by. 5 bedroom, 3 bathroom, 2 car. This one, I imagine, would have had a lot of interest in it, Geoff.
Yeah, I would have thought so. The accommodation it offers there, 810 square metre block, but 5 bedrooms, 3 bathrooms, a big Queenslander, elevated. It hasn't been on the market for over 20 years, and it's got all of those things you'd want, and a particularly good outlook as well. And credit to Glenys Austin with the photos there. Very inviting on their website. And, fireplaces and all the things, 2-car lock-up garage, etc., Kevin. So a good result there in Vale Street.
Everything you'd want. And Harris Real Estate out of Adelaide taking out the top sale in that state, 4 Brigalow Avenue at Kensington Gardens, $1.5 million. Scott Moon selling this 4-bedroom home, 2 bathroom, 2 car on 1,110 square metres of land. So congratulations, Scott. Another great sale for you.
Yeah, this is a classic, a Californian classic, as the heading is, and it certainly got that character and charm on a big block. Accommodation-wise, 4 bedrooms, 2 bathroom, 2-car garage, and again a very, very good home with a lot of street appeal. Pull up out the front, you're captivated by the street appeal, and then it doesn't let you down when you walk through too. So a particularly great result there from Scott and Lucy at Harris, and that was a good one. Well done, guys.
Yeah, well, congratulations to all those salespeople who took out the top sales in each of those states, and to all the people, of course, when you've got the number of auctions that we had over the weekend, a lot of agents out working really hard. Before we leave you, Geoff, I just want to go to our last graphic, which is the weekly clearance rate, the combined capital cities, and this is the rolling results, and it gives us a really good feel about where the market's going. Quite sobering too when you look that we've got to go back to, I think, 2012, 2013 to see results that we're achieving now. But it is headed in the right direction, Geoff.
Yeah, that's right, Kevin. You're quite right. As we all know, everyone knows that property goes in cycles, and we're certainly going through one at the moment. Which is very similar in terms of the clearance rates back to 2012. The upside is that we're seeing some clearance rates based on some good volumes in the last 2 weeks. Clearance rates are better than they were at the end of last year, so that's a promising sign. And it'll be interesting to see where we go from here on. Obviously, we've got some interruptions to the market, such as long weekends and Easter, and coming into obviously federal election time. So the market will be very volatile to some of these sorts of interruptions, as I put them. But when we've got clearance rates better than 50%, I think that's not too bad given from where we've come from. Most of the agents are saying they'd like a very good balanced market at around 60%, as being a number that is good for sellers, good for buyers, and I think in some cases that there's a lot of truth in that, because we don't particularly like the high 80s and high 70s, because that's really unsustainable for any great period of time. So we'll see how we go over the course of the coming weeks into winter there, as we go through autumn there, Kevin.
Yeah, you make a very good point, Geoff, too, and I think we shouldn't measure the market on those high points of the 80s and 90s, because they're, as you say, they're just not sustainable. As you can see there on that graph, we might reach them and then we, take a bit of a nosedive. So, certainly if we can get results around 60%, I think we're doing quite well.
Yeah, that's right. I agree. So we're stable in certainly the last few weeks. So if we continue that sort of stable approach, it'll give buyers some extra confidence to come back into the marketplace as well. And vendors will know that that's what the market's doing. And so, again, that shows more of a balanced approach to the market.
Thank you, Geoff. Geoff White from CoreLogic will be back again later in the week, and we'll have a look at the auction numbers that are coming up this weekend. But as Geoff has correctly said, it'll be a long weekend in Melbourne, so that will impact the number of auctions there. But we'll come back later in the week, on Friday, in fact, and tell you what's ahead for the weekend. Geoff, always great talking to you, my friend. Thank you. You give us a wonderful insight into the market. Geoff White from CoreLogic. Thank you, Geoff. I'll see you later in the week.
Thanks very much, Kevin. Talk then. Thank you.
Roll call. Future marine biologist.
I'm here.
Aspiring songwriter.
Here.
Captain Lasercat.
Affirmative.
At Amazon, we have everything for back to school.
Mirvac has been reimagining urban life since 1972. It started with 2 men from Sydney, Robert Bob Hamilton, a real estate agency owner, and Henry Pollock, an architect and builder. An innovative partnership that would shape the way people live, work and play for decades to come.
I'm a very firm believer in teamwork. Any major project would form a team. You'd have someone from marketing, an architect, builder and developer, and you'd agree on the way you were going to go forward. Unless you all agreed that's the way to do it, then the deal wasn't on. So you had to cooperate and work the way together. And I can only stress too, very strongly that you've got to work as a team because nobody knows it all.
It was the beginning of one of Australia's most successful property development stories, and it's a story that continues to be told today through Mirvac's growth, success and people. Hamilton and Pollock's first project was a block of 12 apartments completed in 1972 in Sydney's Rose Bay. It was called Montrose. By the end of the 1970s, they were not only building houses on subdivided land in the growing suburbs of northwest Sydney, they were revitalising existing apartments, which was key to Mirvac thriving during the 1970s downturn. In the 1980s, Mirvac led the revival in Sydney's property market.
And that really started in 1981 in the York apartments. We did the first sort of major residential building in the city. And people queued around the corner and around the block. And we sold out the 150 units in the morning. They were selling their places in the line, which is quite incredible.
The York was Sydney's first luxury high-rise apartment building to be built in the CBD for 50 years, and it changed the real estate landscape.
The actual fact that we did influence the standard of housing and apartment building in this country. There's no doubt I think we did lead the way and set a certain standard that people copied and now I find that there's no doubt that the competition's a lot better now than it used to be.
Since then, Mirvac has further expanded to constructing whole master plan communities, creating beautiful spaces to work, shop and play, where every project brings new expertise and opportunity.
I was fortunate enough at the start of my career to work with the two founders of Mirvac, being Bob and Henry. You know, a very small company back then, but you know, we worked on some amazing projects in the early years. Projects like Newington or the Olympic Village, Walsh Bay here in Sydney. I think back to you know, the Newington project or the Olympic Village, where we started working on that in the mid-90s. We literally worked out of the back of a garage in Woolloomooloo.
The village had to cater for 16,000 athletes, so we had to design a whole bunch of houses that had to cater for 24 people in each home, and then we had to convert that into a sustainable community.
In the 1990s up in Brisbane, Mirvac was the first developer to really take advantage of the river and do a development called Mariners Reach that was a revitalisation of an existing industrial area into a vital new community space and residential opportunity.
Today, Mirvac is a top 50 ASX listed company and is a diverse but integrated group of over 1,400 employees working across many more innovative, bold projects than the founders could have conceived when they started Mirvac all those years ago.
The Mirvac's good name is the most important asset it's got. Yep. So I think that's what you've got to keep working on.